3-day lesson learning about the social, political, and economic issues in France, so we understand what society looked like in France leading up to the French Revolution, which you did have a little bit of an introduction of this yesterday, that we know that there was a great deal of economic crisis and that there was a strict social hierarchy, and Enlightenment thinkers' ideas is part of what started the French Revolution, because people started to question monarchy, they started to question social hierarchy. So let's take a deeper look into that. So we're going to open up the Padlet link and you're going to continue to watch the mini lesson. So in our Padlet, we have a glossary, which these words, these 8 words, will be used over the next 3 days. So please refer to this when needed. But today we're starting with social issues, and we're going to look at what's called the 3 estates. And this is the estate system, which you can find defined here, but it's also right here. So the estate system was the class structure or hierarchy in France before the French Revolution. The same groups that held power during the Middle Ages still had control after the Middle Ages ended. So remember, there was strict social hierarchy during the Middle Ages, and the church played a really huge role. So, and these 3 words are also in here, but the social classes are the first estate, the clergy, people who work for the church, like the Pope, bishops, and priests. Okay, so we see the importance of the Catholic Church, top of the social hierarchy. Then there's the second estate, the nobility, the wealthy landowners and people with high status in society. Okay, again, the nobility were sometimes also people who were able to read the Bible. If we think back to several lessons, I can't remember the exact lesson name. And then there's the third estate, the commoners, peasants, and city workers. And so for this lesson, you are only going to be looking really at images to help you understand. So this first image, it shows us how the population was broken up between the first estate, which this is the 1% of the population, a very small portion of the population. They had the most power. The second estate is the next largest, which is only 2% of the population, so very small. And then there's the third estate, which makes up 97% of the population, and this is the largest part of the population, the third estate. And then we have image 2, which we have a few, we have some data here. So we're looking at population, which we just saw in that image before. We can see that the first estate is this tiny, tiny little sliver of the pie. The second estate is a very small sliver of the pie. And then we have the third estate making up the largest part of the population. The third estate naturally has the most land ownership because they make up the largest percentage, but look at how much of land the 1%, the smallest part of the population, owned, and then the second estate, the nobility, they still owned quite a bit of land, even though they made up such a small percentage of the population, which to me, that makes me go, and ask a lot of questions, because then we move on to this. Government taxation. The poorest people and the people who have the least amount of power are the ones who are being taxed by the government. The third estate, the commoners. And then this brings us to this image, which it depicts the 3 different estates. And we can look at this as, we have the third estate, this man who's bent over here, who has like some sort of like farming tool, I would say. He's the backbone. He's holding up society, where we have the first estate and we have the second estate, riding on the backbone of the third estate. Now we have this expression or this statement written down here in French, which I'm going to go to Google Translate.
Que je la finira bientôt.
So this translates to, we must hope that the game will end soon. And I think it's interesting to use the word game in this political poster. So consider that. I'm going to go back to our pod. So now there are 8 questions. Questions 1, 2, 3, 4 are multiple choice or multiple answer. Question 5, you are going to analyze this, which I just spoke about it. Question 6, you're going to identify at least 2 social issues facing pre-revolutionary France. Just saying I did mention some at the beginning of this mini lesson, and you learned it yesterday. And then you're going to explain how these social issues led the French people to revolt against the government. And last but certainly not least is of the issues that you listed in question 6, and then explain in question 7, which issues do you think our society still faces today, and explain. So I look forward to reading your responses.